back, relax, get comfortable. Just like some of you, if you fall asleep, that's fine too. It's the frequencies of knowledge and wisdom, because XI, exponential intelligence, is a experiential knowledge. So I'm going to be talking about that as well as part of the paradigm shift, or as I like to call it, altered carbon. So one, the paradigm shift that happened, as I predicted, a lot of you basically experienced the same, say, shift, or something happened to you. And, I asked individuals, it's like, hey, did you guys feel something? It's like, so many of you wrote in. It's like, yeah, I did. There was literally like a distortion in time. Like in the movies, where they transcend time, where they go through time, and it's just like a ripple in time, and they get a little distorted, or a lot distorted, right? And, or their realities change from one into another. It really felt like that. It felt like your consciousness, or the way you render your body, literally, for me, it was literally like, say, rippling in time, and then it like popped out the other side. And it was really spacey for me. It's like, I got a little, like, it's like, you get high a little bit, but I don't take drugs, but it felt like that. It's like, whoa, what the hell's going on? And it's interesting, within that time frame, I lost stuff. It's the craziest thing. Just random things. And it's like things that were literally in my hand that I didn't even let go of. For example, I don't know what it was. It was a key card, or hotel key card, or a credit card. It's like okay, and I didn't go far. It's like, did I leave it in the car or anything like that? I stayed in that place. It was nowhere to be seen. It's like literally like a reality shift, right? Where I'm sure many of you experience this, like where you leave your keys somewhere. It's like, I know I left it there, but why isn't it there? Right? And then you search for it everywhere, and then you come back, half an hour later, and it's like, well, it's there, right? It's like, what happened? Well, so just to explain the science, so you were in one reality when you left the keys there, and then when you came back to find it, you were in another reality. That's why you couldn't see the keys, although it was there. That makes sense to you. And then when you come back and find it, well, you're in the same, say, reality. So, and then it's like, oh, it's there. So that's how those reality shifts work, and those are real. By the way, it's not like in your mind or anything like that. It's happened to me plenty of times, and many others as well. That stuff happens. So that happened. I don't know, a piece of furniture that I just bought just basically disappeared from my trailer. Literally, like, disappeared. So that was crazy. Some other things, like forgetfulness and so on like that within that time frame. And then after that time frame, everything, well, kind of got back to not normal, but a very, say, altered state. And many of you noted that since that night when we did the 18 days, well, a lot of things, say, shifted, or my ability shifted. It was, say, clearer and more, some of you said more loving, more warm. So thank you for that. I look at myself more of, say, surgeon. So bringing that, say, love space coming in. That's very kind. So thank you. Thank you for that. So what does that mean to you? Or is it just me, or did I just make it up, or anything like that? What does it mean to the world? Right? So, let's talk about that. So what it means to the world. And it's not just my reality, okay? Because many of you experienced it. The whole world, or nature, Earth, and then the universe would have felt, say, that paradigm shift, okay, at some level. Okay. So many of the population would not realize it or understand what that was or what that is, okay, because they just not, say, that keen on, say, frequencies, although it still affects you, right? So whether you believe in frequencies, whether you believe how this reality works or not, if you have your own version of how this reality works, it doesn't matter. There's only one version of how this reality works. Okay? I don't care what you believe. So it's not like, well, it's a religion, right? It's like, well, I don't believe in that. It doesn't matter. This is more like gravity. Okay? Whether you believe it or not, gravity works the same way it does. It doesn't matter if you're a nice person, wealthy person, poor person, whatever. Gravity works on you the exact same way each and every time with each and every person. Okay? So much so that there's a mathematical equation for it. So the levels that I'm talking about, again, mathematical equations, although we don't understand, say, the concepts just yet. It's way beyond, say, science. So what happened? Coming back to, say, what happened or how you can tell that this was, say, a reality shift. Okay? Part of that purity wave that's washing through. If you're new, I would suggest listening to previous 21 Day Wisdoms or some of the other, say, lectures that I've done. So as a consciousness, human consciousness, what's happened? Well, I'll give you a grander scale. One, everything runs on a clock. So I'll just back up a little bit. Everything runs on a clock, right? The sun sets, sun rises, the earth orbits, right? Moon orbits, the planets orbit, stars and so on like that. Everything's based on time, right? There has to be a consciousness of all that happens, right down to, say, a molecular level. So that molecular level or that molecular consciousness has a clock. Otherwise, planets and so on, the bigger version of this reality that we, say, touch and feel, won't work. Right? So it's the quantum, it goes beyond quantum, beyond the quantum realm that I'm talking about. That is a clockwork. So the universal clock basically, say, upgraded itself. Okay? And as it upgraded, that shift, and you'll see, so what that means to what that means, and how, say, I can prove it, in the near future because of this shift that happened. And it's not just like, it works all the way, it gets closer and closer, and then there's like a jolt. Okay? So, and I'll talk about that jolt now. I'll talk about that later. So what you'll see is that scientists will start to, say, understand or, say, discover the planetary orbits of certain planets or moons or stars change. Okay? Whether, say they have a circular pattern. From what I'm seeing, some of them would be, say, elongated. And you might not put that together, but I'm just telling you what I see. So these are my predictions. And by the way, my predictions have been, about 99.9%. I might have been off by, a couple of days or whatever, but still, those things happen. So that's one of the patterns, is that at a universal pattern, you'll see orbits of planets and even the Earth start to change. Or they'll start to see, say, inconsistencies because of this shift that's happening. So bring it down to the Earth level. Okay, so we have the universal frequencies. And it's not just this universe, it's, say, all the universes that run with this, say, space-time, say, space-time formula, which is, for ease, a 24-hour, say, clock or cycle. So what's next? The next, say, calculation or the next frequency. Okay? And these are frequencies within frequencies. Okay? So it's like a sphere within a sphere within a sphere, but the sphere is basically a consciousness. Okay? That renders or creates those realities for you. So there's a sphere of consciousness that, renders the universe for you. So it's like a global setting, so to speak. Okay? And it is, say, a sphere, by the way. And then within that sphere, there's another sphere. There's tons of other spheres, but one of these spheres is called Earth. It has a consciousness to render, say, the properties of what operate or create Earth. Okay? So these are how filters work, by the way. So when say density or solids, materials, basically density, say come into this consciousness, it forms the way it's expected in its operating system, or the consciousness, as I said. So consciousness is basically an operating system, and it tells, say, the materials in this reality, for example, Earth's reality, to react in certain ways. That's how properties are given to, objects, air and gases, and so on like that, right? So, and I'll talk about that a bit later, because it kind of goes off to another path. And I've done a lecture before on this, and I'll do more. So just know that there's a consciousness that creates this Earth, and everything within it operates from that consciousness or global setting or operating system. So within that, because of what happened on, say, this shift, time, it's a time and reality shift. Because of what happened, on Earth, you'll start to see, a bit more, say, weather patterns change dramatically, a bit more, say, natural disasters start to happen, more, I want to say organically, like all of a sudden it'll just show up, right? Where in the past people, like scientists can predict, it's like, well, a tsunami happens, or, because of the wave patterns, or weather patterns happen, right? Because they can tell, it's like, oh, a hurricane's building up, or a thunderstorm building, or tornado. But these are just going to be more surprise. It's like, whoa, how did that happen? There was no, say, prior warning. So you'll see more of those things happening, say, on the Earth level or nature level. Okay, a lot of animals will start to, say, change their habits and so on like that. Their eating preferences or migration patterns and so on like that will start to shift. Okay? And again, you might think it's something else, but can't be 100% sure, but from what I'm seeing, and since I've been, say, accurate, with all the other predictions, and from what I see, we can safely assume that it's because of this paradigm shift, that happened. And I'll talk about, say, what exactly this shift is, or the mechanics of the shift. The next layer within that is a human consciousness. Okay. So, and I was talking about, say, clocks. So the universal clock, right, synchronizes or gets forced, or the Earth clock gets forced to the universal clock. It's like, your clocks are off, and then it like resets to, again, precision. So that's what that's about. Human consciousness, it's been way off. This is where, because of free will, it's all about free will. Because in nature, animals, plants, so on, they are congruent, or they are in sync with Earth's clock and then the universe's clock. Okay? And then all the other planetary systems and so on, they're all in sync. So, and that's why they're always abundant. That's why they're always in perfection. Okay? And that's why they always grow and expand. And that's why when you go into, say, nature, there's that sense of brilliance. That brilliance is not about the vegetation or so on like that. It's about, say, the frequency of, well, being in present moment. It's about that one reality. I would call it the crossroads between reality, or a reality, and time, present moment time. So there's only one reality that has consciousness in it. And again, I'll talk about that in just a bit, or on another lecture, but I'll just give you a smidgen of what it's about, because it's a whole lecture in itself. So what you want, or why you're here, okay, the bigger picture of why you're here is like, how can I create such precision, or again, the crossroads between realities and time? Right? You want to be in the present moment time, because time is always moving, and the reality that you're in. Okay? The closer you are to that reality, the more abundant you are. The further you are to, say, the only reality that can sustain itself, well, the more distorted you are, the less abundant that you are. So I'll talk about that in a bit. I just want to finish this concept for you. So human consciousness, again, overall, does not, say, synchronize, or doesn't synchronize, or hasn't synchronized since the beginning of time, where human consciousness started. Not the beginning of time, but the beginning of human consciousness. So, and that's why, because again, of free will, because we want to rise above, say, nature's consciousness, right? What we would have to do is, well, say, separate from it, come into congruence or rhythm with it, and then go beyond it. That's our trajectory. That's what XI is about. That's our whole entire goal. And I know it gets a little deep for people, but the consequences are, impacted. You are impacted by the consequences of what I'm saying. But there's a lot of science-minded individuals that are coming, and they want to know the details of it. So that's why I'm explaining it that way. It's not just like surface level benefits anymore. So I'll explain the surface level benefits for you. So what does it mean in human consciousness when this, say, shift occurs? Well, human consciousness, again, since it's been distorted, the further and further away it's gotten from those crossroads, the more and more distorted, the more and more chaos, the more and more abuse patterns, the more and more control patterns, the more and more starvation, child trafficking, all those things that are happening. COVID's happening. Or if it wasn't COVID, it'd be something else that would be, say, appearing in, say, the human society. It'll represent, the distortions will represent itself in another way. Again, if it wasn't for COVID, it'd be something else. Okay? So, and it's because of the consciousness. That's shifting. So what's happening is human consciousness, say it's supposed to be, noon, right? And then it's like, hey, it's time to reset the clocks, guys. And human consciousness is at, I don't know, like 6 o'clock, in the late afternoon. So what happens is that, say on July 22nd, right? And over, the time that humans have been on Earth, which is just, say, a smidgen of the time Earth has been around, over time, we've gone way off. So it's supposed to be, say, 12 noon. It's 6 o'clock. It's not about 6 hours, because each second would be, say, thousands of years. That would be, off, so to speak. So if that makes sense to you. So think of that. So think of it that way. So this shift basically is like, 12:06, and now it's like 12:04. So 2-hour shift doesn't sound like just like 2 hours. Well, that's not much. But like if every second was, hundreds or thousands of years, human time, that's a lot. That's a lot to be off. And then we just got forced back, back into, again, synchronizing into nature's frequencies. Okay? We should have learned it on our own, but we didn't, so now it's time to get forced back into it. Okay? So, it's still part of that free will, by the way, if you're wondering. So what does that mean to you at, say, experiential level? Here, what are you going to see? So what that means is that there's going to be a great divide. So those people who are awakened, and again, most people who are practice XI, or other people who are awakened, again, there's other ways to awaken, although it's still through XI, whether you practice it or not, because those are the physics principles. I've just labeled it XI. I didn't create XI. So those are just the physics principles of, how this reality works. Okay. So again, those people are awakened. What'll happen is that they'll awaken even more. It's a magnification frequency, right? So if you're, say, a level 10 frequency, this wave comes through, just jolts through, right? What happens is that, you're level 10, it's a multiplier frequency or magnifier frequency of, say, a level 10. So you're level 10, so you get ascended or magnified, or basically what that means is closer to, say, the time clock of nature and the universe. So now, you're level 10, 100. So that's a big jump for you, right? So those people who are, say, dark, right, or distorted, they're a negative 10. They get magnified, so they'll go deeper, so they'll be a minus 100. So they'll get further away from, say, the frequencies are synchronized with nature. And again, it's not like, well, it's not fair, I didn't know. Well, at some level, we all had a consciousness, we all had abilities, whether it's your fault, no, it's fault. It's too late for that. It doesn't matter why, how you got to that point. It just matters that you're at that point. Okay? There's no excuses. It just is. That's how nature, that's how the universe works. It just is. Wherever you are, you get magnified. It doesn't care. It's like, well, I didn't know. I was abused as a kid. I was this. It doesn't fucking matter. It just doesn't matter. It's just like it checks where you are, your frequency, magnifies you. That's all it is. Okay? So, it's non-judgmental. So you'll start to see a great divide, in people. And you might think, well, that's going to be chaos. Well, it's interesting enough though, because the mass of, say, the consciousness gets forced, especially with, the high performance consciousness opening up. Those individuals are, say, moving, or you're moving to a higher frequency. So it pulls the others and helps them awaken. So, say, for example, I'll give you a solid example. Say that there's an opportunity for a war to happen. Okay? A low-level consciousness. Okay? So you might think, well, that war, it will magnify, get worse. It could, but with this shift, you'll see that, it's like, wait a second. We don't have to go to war. We can figure it out some other way. So what this allows, again, that transition or that paradigm shift is about, what happens is that it opens up possibilities that weren't available in the consciousness. Again, both possibilities, the dark side and then the positive side, because they both have to balance out. But since we're getting, say, sucked into the higher possibilities, we start to move towards, say, new solutions. So you'll start to find, say, like, for example, Bitcoin, taking off or moving forward. You'll start to see different ways of commerce, really taking hold, if that makes sense to you. Before it was like, introductory level or pioneer level, but now more and more people are going to, say, adapt to, say, Bitcoin technology or blockchain technology. Say in the financials, in spirituality, in religion, and so on like that, you'll start to see more people question, say, their rabbis, their priests, their mullahs, or, their sages, their, gurus, whatever you have out there. They're going to start to practice like, hey, does this shit work? Does it not work? Those people who are atheists, they're not going to go, hey, I told you guys. So it's not, they get to have a deeper understanding, again, because they're all getting pulled into, say, that point of clarity. Okay? So it's really a fantastic time, by the way. Those people who turn dark, it's like, well, what about them? Well, they awaken, and the reason why they turn dark, I just want to explain that. The reason why they turn dark is not because they're getting darker, but say that darkness was deep inside them. So it's a purification process, no matter how you look at it. But say you're 10%, like minus 10, distorted, right? It's not that you get a minus 100 distortion, but what happens is that distortion within you was within you. Okay? So you didn't know what was going on. So this basically pulls it out of you. And like many of you who have experienced, right, say detox, right? You've got this distortion, it's deep within you, and then as it comes out, it gets magnified. So the challenges that you've had, right, gets magnified with it because it's a purification process. So basically it's pulling that darkness or distortions, say, out of their flesh. So that's why it's not a sentence. It's not, oh shit, they did something wrong, they're going to hell or anything like that. It's got nothing to do with that. It's again a purification process. Say that you got muddy. Right? You've been rolling around in the mud. Some of you cleaned up and you didn't hold on to the mud. So, it's going to be easier for you to clean up. Some of you, you got so, say, dirty that, that mud went inside your flesh. Well, it's going to hurt, cleaning that mud off. Okay? Again, it's not a sin space. It's not about retribution or anything like that. Got nothing to do with that. It's not about purgatory, nothing like that. It's just about cleaning up the space. Simple as that. Okay? So, let's take a deep breath in. So, what does it mean for XI? Exponential intelligence. Well, this is, and it's been in the works, and this really, shifted us into, high gear. So, which is really, for us, it's really fantastic. And before I explain that, it's like, well, what actually happened? What is this, time-space shift? Okay. So before, right, the wave, for example, this purity wave, as I call it, right, or consciousness wave, right, purifying everything. Before it was a transition, like a dimmer switch, or like a wave that's just constant. And, these waves have gotten bigger and bigger. So it's just a nice rhythm. Okay. So now, think of it more as, how earthquakes form. Right? There's magma, there's, frozen, not frozen, but melted rock, that keeps coming to the surface. And you have these, tectonic plates, right, on Earth, right? And I don't know how many tectonic plates there are. But anyway, they move. It's kind of like, your skull. Your skull is not one bone, but they move when you're younger. But anyway, so what happens is that these plates, they keep moving and they hit each other. So now, as they get pushed closer and closer or into each other, you create, that's how mountains are created, or, they go inwards. But anyway, they don't stay the same. Or like when earthquakes happen, right? There's this pressure. It gets built up and the pressure gets so strong that something has to break. And as it crushes or breaks, this is where earthquakes happen. Okay. So what that means is that through time and space, the realities like push together. Okay? The realities through time and space, they're pushing and merging together. And as they merge together, before it was like a smooth transition. Now it's like, pushing, and then it breaks, and then we break into a new consciousness. Okay? So before, as I was speaking, maybe a couple months ago, I said that, we were, say, level 0, level 1 consciousness, they merge together. Now, basically, that level 1 consciousness that we merged into is getting to a level 2 consciousness. So a lot of great possibilities are going to be happening for you. So again, before it was like a smooth transition. Now it's like an earthquake. It's a consciousness earthquake. Think of it that way. And the consciousness is basically a time and space earthquake. Okay. It will mess up, say, your body clocks as well, and that's what many of you experience. So, the cool thing about that, okay, and I just want to go back just to refresh you. So say you were at a level 0 consciousness, which is, just physical, reality. Level 1 consciousness was, say, the other side, or some of you might think of the dead. So say you die. And for the most part, since most of society doesn't know how to die well, so that consciousness, you're at level 0, right? There's a line, and then you go to a level 1 consciousness. This is where somebody dies. They basically go to the level 1 consciousness, just the next consciousness higher, and they exist within that arena, and so without a body, simple as that. So 0 consciousness, 1 consciousness merge together, and this is where I predicted that, well, many of you who are connected to your families and so on, or healthcare workers and so on, you'll experience your identities changing because, again, say the death or the spirits or the consciousness, they didn't transcend where they should have. They just stayed over. So when they come back down, or when the two realities, say, mix together, well, the dead, so to speak, or the consciousness of the dead, not necessarily the dead, the essence, because they still exist, right? Your spirit never dies, so they just go to that other level. Think of it that way. They merge with the living people. So, and I predicted that some of the old patterns, like, say, you'll see things of the 70s come forward or 80s come forward. So it's kind of like a retro, because all those people died around that time. That was their lifetime. So as they, say, take over certain individuals, if you're not strong enough, well, you'll start behaving like whoever took over. So that was my prediction. That's the furthest I'm going to go with that. So now, okay, you got level 0, you got level 1. The next version, level 2, is a clear consciousness, and this is where a lot of opportunities show up for people, a lot of new ideas, a lot of new concepts, new solutions for the distortions or the problems that you have in this reality will show up for you. Okay, so in this consciousness, again, as one of my predictions, as that earthquake, it shook us into that new consciousness rather than a transitional wave. You'll see a lot of fantastic opportunities, higher levels of solutions coming up, different ways of, say, research that'll come up for you. That'll say whatever's happening here, the latest, especially like in AI, a lot of those technologies will really, say, blossom for you. And then also personal level, relationships and so on. There's going to be a different, say, possibilities that'll open up that are further. This is also where people will have, like, your senses will, say, expand. So right now, say like your eyesight, for example, right? You have a certain frequency. I don't know what that frequency is, right? That's your visual, say, frequencies that your eyes can see. That will, say, expand a bit. So some of you will see like new colors. That's never been here on Earth. Some of you will smell new smells, whether it's good or bad. Those things will show up for you. So, or new sounds. So those things show up for you. So that's what that's about. So I want to talk about, say, the business paradigm, or what's happening for us. Okay? Now that you know the concepts, and by the way, that earthquake, the frequency earthquakes, let's call them. Another one will show October, November. Can't quite give you the exact date yet, but around that time frame, and it'll be a jolt. Okay, political systems and so on like that will shift. You'll see, say, the election coming up here in the U.S. Well, it'll be different. It'll be very different about it. As far as business goes, or what I do, or my staff goes, we're changing quite a bit. So thanks for all the great feedback, by the way. And I just want to thank all the team members, the team that make everything happen, especially Faye here. So thank you for that. So what does that mean? Well, like in the past, I said that we're shifting from fixing people and fixing things into the grand possibilities, because that's what we're getting ready for, because there's going to be so many opportunities out there for us, in business, in relationships, in, just having fun, adventure. It's going to be a great playing field. So in the past, it was about fixing things, right? If I can just maintain my relationship till I die, that's fantastic. Or if I save enough money and then, I retire, I'll have enough till I die, basically. So everything's about, or if I stay healthy, right? I just want to stay healthy enough so I can enjoy my life till I die, that kind of pattern, right? So it's always that end goal of, I just want to be good enough, or like afloat, or, experience at some level, but again, the underlying theme is that, I want to experience the good things, but then I'm worried about, health, wealth, and all that stuff, right? The security issues. So again, not the grandest version. So that paradigm is shifting or ending, okay? So what we're here is like, well, especially with my abilities and again, the shift, fantastic transitions. So what I could do and again, very short periods compared to say, conventional practices, like say 20 years of therapy, in the past I could do it in say maybe 4 or 5 sessions or maybe less in these sessions, like, 15 minutes or so. So now, my abilities have gotten a lot stronger. So, say 20 years of therapy, maybe like 1 or 2 sessions, very short sessions. So the key is that it's not about fixing things. I'll still help you. I'll still help you resolve your health issues and stuff like that. But it's like, it's not about security anymore. It's just because you are secure that, your health, your wealth, your relationships are good. If that makes sense to you. It's not about better relations. It's not about a Band-Aid. It's not about fixing things till you die. So you just assume, just like, night turns into day, day turns into night, right? It's constant. If you throw something, it's going to fall down. So basically it's like, well, I'm good. Right? All those things are available to me. So now you can concentrate or focus your energy on, say, the bigger versions. Like, this is all good for me. I don't have to spend or slave my life taking that time to, put Band-Aids or duct tape on my life till I die. This is, shit, I'm good. What's there to adventure? So you're going to see a ton of opportunities for people taking a look at what you can do in this space-time reality. So that's what my business is transitioning into. How much potential or how much of that brain power, and obviously it's more than just the brain power. It's the consciousness that runs the brain, that runs your life. How much of that can we use? How much of that can we say mine or tap into? Okay. So there's a lot of, say, technologies out there that are going, well, we'll put little robots in our bloodstream that'll, kill the cancer cells. Or, as Elon Musk goes, well, we can put stuff in the brain that, will help with, nervous disorders, and you can stream music into your brain without, headphones. I don't know why you'd want that. But, anyway, those kind of technologies. It's like, well, hell, why don't we just bring out the natural, say, potential that humans have to heal themselves, to create abundance, so this is like a machine. It's not a machine takeover. It's basically humans taking over the machines that basically, because everything else out there is about replacing, it's like, let's just keep the humans dumb. And again, it's not companies, it's you. You are responsible, right? Because you're not taking charge. I'm not saying you specifically, but as humans, right? You hold on to your garbage, you hold on to your weaknesses, and then you expect something outside of you to take care of you. And nowadays, it's like, and the companies are fulfilling that need. It's simple as that. I'm not going to talk about that. That's another podcast. But the companies are filling their needs because, well, most of society does not want to take the time to wake up and do something about their life and take back control. So they're gonna have machines that'll cure your cancer. They're gonna have, robots that cure your cancer, help you heal, do this. And, if you're depressed, there's a pill for it. If you're sad, there's a pill for it. If you're too happy, there's gonna be a pill for it. Whatever it is, right? It's something outside of you. Again, you become a mannequin or a dummy going through the process of life. Okay? So there's that choice, or this new paradigm. Because when that happens, obviously humanity dies off. That consciousness dies off. That's not our purpose here. So we're getting forced back again to synchronize with nature and come back with our grandness. So as far as business-wise, it's like, well, how do you pull into that grandness? This is where we're starting to work with even, those individuals like, my son, he's into race car driving. How do you, even make, say, connect man and machine, human and machine together? How do you bring back, how do you say connect to, so we're going to have a ton of programs on, how do you bring out your creativity for those who are, say, entertainers, musicians, artists, and so on like that, right? How do you get, like, say, the likes of Michael Jackson, right, into those who are interested in that, or even better, without the distortion that Michael had or anybody else, right? How do you access that without exchanging yourself for it? For those who are athletics, how do you perform better without, destroying your body? How do you get faster? How do you get stronger? How do you get, without the drugs and so on like that? That's what we're looking into. How do you, for example, I was just thinking about this, today. Was talking with a gentleman, about stem cells. Right? Stem cells for recovery and so on. It's like, well, what if you could infuse the stem cells with the frequencies that I generate, a specific, say, frequency within the stem cells? I've done that with water. Done that with water crystals and, some other, science. And by the way, we're having more and more research done on my abilities. It's like if I can change water way past or way beyond, say, the structure that scientists are normally, see with water. Again, way past. They've never seen that, as I've worked on, say, vials of water. It's like the water structure changes to a very, say, I wouldn't say unusual, but very optimized, say, crystalline, say, structure, when they've tested it, which is really cool. So hopefully we'll get the studies for that. But what if you could infuse those frequencies, within, say, stem cells or other, say, modalities of that nature to rejuvenate you? What if you don't need stem cells? But, again, it's that mix, right? Because some of us are too far gone to recover, at this consciousness. So we might need stem cell replacement or something like that. What if you could infuse that? Would it be stronger? So those are the things that we're working on. The frequency spa that we're coming up with. By the way, it's a free call coming up on, say, the science behind, how we reverse age or help reverse age people. Many of you have experienced it already. So there's science behind that. Without, spa treatments or anything else. How do you reverse age like that? So we're getting more and more science. But again, it's always about, mastering this reality, in those arenas and in the business and the whole new business paradigm. So you don't have to, say, exchange, your health, your vibrancy, your, family, your loved ones, your relationships in exchange for, wealth. Right? How do you do that? How do you optimize where, for example, again, a dear friend of mine, where he would spend, 4 or 5 days for an hour, say, meeting that he would have every 2 weeks with his staff. Again, very high level person. Now he prepares for 15, 20 minutes. Again, how efficient is that? And he's right on cue, and he's it's more free flowing. It comes from the heart, and with real solutions. So those types of things that, my business is, or XI, or what we're doing is transferring into. Let's take a deep breath in. So before we were a carbon-based, say, individual or being, here, we're rendering ourselves. Carbon-based is more time-bound. So what we're transcending into is more of a crystalline structure. Many of you are actually feeling your DNA or your cellular. It's you go through the 18 days, and it's whoa, it's my body feels different. My essence feels different. That's why, because you're transitioning more of a, heavy time-bound being more into a crystalline, which is more dynamic in time. So you can do a lot more against a healthier, youthful, wealthier, all that. Okay? So that's what it, again, altered carbon is about, altering your carbon, say, DNA. So for those individuals, your momentum, as far as cleaning up with less detox, will come through. Okay, you'll see more or quicker changes through the process that we do. We might not even need 18 days. Many of you go, wow, you've changed in 9 days, which is half the time. So those things will change. And the key is that the detox is less, although it's more intense, but it's vaporizes faster for you, which is really fantastic. So, many of you will see your families change as you've changed, right? They'll come forward for you. Even strangers will come forward for you and go, hey, what are you doing? Because consciousness is awakening. You'll see that great divide shifting. You'll see control mechanisms, whether it's your partner, your employer, your church, your government mechanisms, the deep state, whoever that is, they'll put more control mechanisms upon you. Okay? On the flip side, you'll feel freer and freer. I know it sounds strange, but how can they put more control mechanisms, and then you'll feel free? Because this is about, say, a conscious revolution. Okay? It's not about guns and laws and, riots or anything like that. It's the consciousness that cannot be destroyed this time around. And that's the key. It overrules all the physical, lower level, say, ways of control. At the new consciousness that everybody says is evaporating or ascending into, those things don't exist. Control mechanisms, things of that nature, although you'll see it how you've been controlled in the past as, again, those mechanisms lose their strength. So, again, those mechanisms that, control you will, push upon you to strengthen what they're losing, but they're going to be losing. So it's really fantastic. Again, this is a fantastic opportunity to take hold and claim stake your claim of who you are. Okay? And by the way, when you do stake your claim, you're not taking anybody else's. Okay? That's reserved for you. If you don't use it, nobody else can use it. Right? It's for you. So stake it, claim it, run with it. It's yours. It's always been yours. So with that in mind, guys, thanks for listening. Notice what you notice, and then notice the details of what you're noticing.